Hello, beautiful people. My name is Athol. Welcome to the show, and let's jump into a reader question. Athol, do you no longer recommend people A-B ultimating their spouses anymore? Do you just not see it working very much? And the short answer to that is, yeah, pretty much. And the question comes from basically these books that I've written. One, the Mindful Attraction Plan, and the MSL Primer, where ultimately is this last-ditch effort where all else has been tried, this last-ditch effort to try and salvage a relationship, that you come to this A-B ultimatum point where you basically sit your partner down and say, listen, you either choose option A, where you're prepared to work on things, where you're going to go to counseling, you're going to get therapy for whatever it is, you're going to work hard on the marriage, or if you're not prepared to work on the marriage, option B is, I'm just out of here, I'm done trying, and we're going to get a divorce. And it tends to be, the approach tends to be sort of formal, like one way or the other. We need to figure this out. What I tend to find, though, is that people trying this in reality is sort of one or two things. The first is they try this way too early in the process before they can really follow through and carry out an ultimatum, before they're even emotionally ready to do it at all. And that really just sort of comes across as it's either a mixture of nagging to just some sort of manipulative stunt to just pleading, please, please, please work on the marriage, work on the relationship. And what tends to happen is the other partner gives them this sort of short-term little boost of attention, love, sex, affection, whatever it is, in the hope that just keeps the person who gave that ultimatum quiet. Basically, it's just put a little more bait on the hook and just continue on with it. The other thing I tend to find is when people have actually gone all the way through the process and they've gotten to that ultimatum point and they're actually trying to give one of these ultimatums, is that increasingly by that point everybody knows what's going to happen. It's they're either gonna, if they've bought in and they want to fix things and they want to change things, it never gets to that ultimatum point. If they just don't want to fix things and they have no interest, they have some sort of big emotional blockage, they were never attracted to you or whatever it was, they just decline the ultimatum anyway. So it all becomes sort of a moot point by that point. And often the person giving the ultimatum doesn't even want the other person to say, yes, I want to work on the relationship by that point. Because by that point, they are so disgusted, they are so exhausted, so angry, so tired, and just want to be moving on with their life. The idea of their partner saying, yes, actually, let's do a whole bunch of marriage counseling and we can, rebuild things and start over, that almost sounds like a horror story to the person who wants to give the ultimatum. They're done by that point too. So what I see happening, because there is an ultimatum of sorts that happens, but it tends to happen somewhat earlier in the process. What tends to happen is that at some point there's this sort of emotional tipping point where the partner that is, say, disinterested in, is basically trying to be passive, trying to withhold, trying to not engage. And the person who wants to fix things and work on things is going through this process of making themselves more attractive, trying to find all the problems, trying to jump through all the hoops to make the relationship better. And it's like there is a mixed agenda here. One person is not interested, the other person is really interested, and eventually these two come together and clash. And for the longest time, the person that was disinterested basically got their way, but then you get to this tipping point where they say something or they do something, and in the person's head that wants to fix things, there's this emotional snapping, and they go, oh, this is never gonna work. Oh, you're just not interested in me. Oh, you're never going to stop drinking. Whatever it is, this thing is never stopping. It's never going to go away. I can't fix it. I can't change it. I don't even know if you can change it if you tried. It's that deep. And that's where you get this emotional tipping point. And pretty much at that point, the relationship is over. It just hasn't played its way out to a resolution point. What tends to happen after that sort of tipping point experience, which is very visceral, it's very raw, it's very primal, it's almost like an out-of-body experience. And you would think that you would be really, really angry or really, really sad, and it's more just this sort of resigned disappointment awareness, like I say, oh, you're never going to get it. You're never going to change. It's never going to be better. It's just like this is now forever, and this is horrible. So it's a very visceral experience. It's almost, I'm sure it must be some sort of biochemical reaction too, just almost rewiring your feelings, rewiring your attachment to that person. It's very, very serious for the relationship. What tends to happen immediately after that point, though, is once that sort of peak experience, that tipping point experience is over, the person that's had it, the person who wants to work on the relationship, wants to kind of disbelieve it, wants to not really accept it, doesn't really want to follow through on it, because the reality is that's horrible. That's horrible, because now they have to leave the relationship. They have to break up their family. They have to do all these things that they just don't want to. And they're the ones that are going to have to do all the work to make that happen, because the partner is not interested. They're just going to sit there like a sack of potatoes, be completely passive-aggressive, maybe, and just let it all crumble. So the person that has been interested, that's had this tipping point experience, doesn't want to believe it, and they bargain and they beg and they plead and they try and find some emotional workarounds, and they look for special books or tools or even coaches or counselors or whatever to find some sort of magical Hail Mary solution. And there isn't one. There's not one. The next step is when they start accepting. And when they start accepting, they start charting their exit strategy. They start working on the end of the relationship. And that can take a matter of days or weeks, or it could take months, or even potentially years to get themselves in a place, and sometimes to get the children in a place, where they can successfully leave the relationship without it all sort of backfiring and crumbling on them. I guess, and that's kind of why you have this sort of scenario. I'm sure you've heard of it. The walk-away wife, syndrome. Well, they had this. What's happened in those cases is they've had this sort of tipping point experience years before, and where they've given up trying. They've given up trying to connect, giving up trying to seek him out, and they give up, and they go through their bargaining phase, and then they start working on the exit. By the time the other person is finally aware something is really going wrong, it's all well too late. So far too late. And it's very sad when they finally get it, because sometimes it really is too late. And like I said before, sometimes the person who had wanted to work on it is so disgusted that the other person is finally paying attention. And the thought is, why did it have to get this bad? Why did we have to get on the brink of divorce for you to pay some basic attention? And at that point, it really is kind of over. And after that, it all resolves. They end up going their separate ways. It plays out how it plays out. And that's how it is. So that might be a slightly longer answer than you were looking for. So basically what I'm saying is, serious AB ultimatums. It's not that they don't work, because there is this ultimatum that happens earlier on. It's just by the time it comes around, everybody knows how it's going to play out. So that's about it. Kind of bleak, and I will talk to you soon.